live in interesting times. So goes an old Chinese curse. Hello, my friends. I wanted to talk today about some things I've been reflecting on this last little while. I record this on November 23rd, 2016. I've been reflecting on the recent election of Donald Trump as the next president of the United States. Certainly has to be one of the more polarizing events in my recent memory. And I wanted to talk about how we react to it, what can we do with these powerful emotions, and also how we can deal with those in our lives or those we come across, maybe even just through social media, who are diametrically opposed to what is surely the only right way to think. In a letter from a Birmingham jail, Dr. Martin Luther King wrote, "In a real sense, all life is interrelated. All men are caught in an inescapable network of mutuality, tied in a single garment of destiny. What affects one directly affects all indirectly. I can never be what I ought to be unless you can be what you ought to be, and you can never be what you ought to be unless I can be what I ought to be." These words by Dr. King strike me as wise. As someone who teaches courses in conflict resolution, I invite my participants very early on in our time together to entertain the idea that the only true enemy that they have is the spirit of contention within their own heart. Most folks come to these workshops looking to be able to deal with those, how shall we put it diplomatically, contrary people in their life. We have, surely, many of us, a reaction to these recent developments, a trinity of negative emotions: fear, anger, and grief. There is for many of us a knee-jerk reaction to project these undigested emotions outward in a dramatic way into the world. And this is really adding fuel to the fire. Or we could go in another direction and take on a certain affected spiritual wisdom. You know, it's all good. Everything's going to work out for greater cosmic yumminess. Yeah, I don't think it's appropriate in this case. We're dealing with a tendency towards fascism and racism, xenophobia, misogyny, environmental collapse. These are things where people of conscience need to stand up and be counted. As Edmund Burke once said, the only thing necessary for the triumph of evil is for good men to do nothing. How then do we approach such circumstances? Well, I think, first of all, a certain radical self-honesty is called for, and recognize that there is a vengeful spirit that we want to act out with blame and vengeance. And yet I think at the heart of each and every one of us, for those that are paying attention, that have done any of the work, we recognize that this is not the solution. Where do we go then? Well, we could go on and on about this, and I'm striving to keep this a relatively short video, but I would suggest that a fundamental principle and approach that we must have is empathy. Empathy has both Greek and Latin roots. It means to see through another's eyes. It is asking the question for those whose stances we diametrically oppose. We start with this fundamental question: what is it like to be you? It asks of us, in a way, first of all, the Hippocratic Oath. First, do no harm. And secondly, it asks of us a genuine curiosity of another's experience. I recognize now that this topic is going to take me a little more time than I'm going to give to this particular take. So my friends, I'm going to come back in a few days and I'm going to have a few more things to say to you about this. I certainly welcome any comments you may have about what I've shared today. Until such time, stay sharp, be strong, all the best.